Welcome to What If Deku and Camie Were Partners? Episode 1. Join us as we explore the unique partnership between Deku and Camie in exciting new scenarios. Get ready for epic adventures and unexpected twists. I once heard that fantasy is the most beautiful way to live in someone's eternal heart, a simple phrase that only a love-struck girl would accept. But, boldly, I embrace it because that's how the story with him marked me. Though, it all started by accident. The fire has spread throughout the building. There's practically nothing material that can be saved. That's not what really matters. The child must be saved, protected. Even if it costs me my life, thought the heroine seriously, risking her well-being for a child trapped in his room. Camie Yutsushimi, a graduate of the famous Hero Academy Shiketsu, found herself in a predicament. She ran through the halls trying to find a possible way out, but being on the 5th floor didn't make it easy. The weight of the unconscious child slowed her down. Carrying him on her back was the only way to move him. But the more she searched for an escape, the harder it became to breathe in the thickening air. At least the child is covered, thought the beautiful heroine, who had wrapped the boy in a blanket to protect him from the smoke. Time was running out, she knew it. Is anyone there? Answer, a voice in the distance could be heard. Camie didn't hesitate to follow it. Answer. As she approached, she heard the call louder. It didn't take long to realize that the sound was coming from a window. Can anyone hear me? Answer, called the firefighter standing on a crane. Yes. I hear you. The woman had arrived with the boy on her back. Child, wake up, you're safe, she said with a smile. He slowly opened his eyes. The boy, still dazed, looked at her and with tears nodded. Then he replied, thank you, heroine. She proceeded to lower him and then helped him onto the crane. Her job was done. Camie could rest. Or so she thought. Help. A child's voice interrupted the moment of victory. Someone else is trapped. I'll go for them. Miss, it's too dangerous, the building won't hold much longer, the firefighter replied. I can't leave them. That's my duty. After that, she ventured back into the infernal building. She cared about the children, she would never let any of them suffer. She felt that fear again, but her sense of responsibility called her to fulfill her professional duty. After all, she graduated from Shiketsu. Help me, please. A girl's voice could be heard. Keep shouting so I can find you, Camie responded. Here. Hurry. Her crying could be heard. The girl kept shouting, and the more she did, the closer the heroine got. That's how she reached a doorway corroded by flames. Her surroundings had already been claimed by the fire. This way. Please, hurry, the voice came from a door with a welcoming sign. Yutsushimi didn't hesitate to kick it several times to knock it down. But before taking another step, the floor was already cracked, so much so that both their weights wouldn't hold, though hers would. There was no other choice. Girl. Come closer carefully, I'll help you, she said, shielding herself from the flame's glare. I can't. I'm scared, she couldn't stop crying. Don't be afraid. I promise to save you. Come, take my hand. And with a smile, she instilled confidence in the child. The little girl, cornered, began to move toward the heroine, and as she advanced with fear, Camie extended her hand further. Her face displayed a smile. But as if it were a cruel game of fate, things ended badly. The floor collapsed beneath the girl, who only managed to let out a heartbreaking scream. As if Lucifer himself had claimed her earthly sacrifice. She made a fatal mistake. Yutsushimi was stunned by the turn of events. She had promised to help her, to save her. Her promise had been broken by misfortune. Because of my mistake. She died, she thought as she stepped back, lost in the void. The fire consumed her surroundings. She didn't care. Seeing the girl die had shattered her. And as the cruel game of fate continued, the only way out had been covered by rubble. She would be punished. The infernal ruler sought another offering. Slowly his realm approached the woman who lamented, while she saw how her escape was impossible. Only a hole behind her was available, but she knew it would lead to a tragic end, just like for that girl. The smoke covered the surroundings more, with her body burdened by effort, she couldn't move anymore. The abrupt coughing was synonymous with scarce oxygen, and with it, the heaviness of her eyes. Maybe if she slept, she wouldn't feel pain. And so sleep overtook her. Noises. It must be the fall of more rubble. She tried to see what was happening. But it was blurry. All she could make out was something strange. The door where she entered no longer had debris, from there a figure entered. Is it a man or a woman? Their form revealed it was the former. And he approached her. He seemed to say something. But she couldn't understand it. The rest was incomprehensible, darkness enveloped her. Miss, can you hear me? Miss. She slowly opened her eyes. Miss, how do you feel? A paramedic said. Numb. It's normal. You've been in the smoke for a long time. In a few minutes, you'll feel somewhat better. What happened? How did I get out? She spoke with difficulty. A young hero got you out, miss. Upon hearing that you were looking for someone else inside the disaster, he went in. A hero, you say? Camie was puzzled. She wanted to know who he was. Well, your hero is over there, miss, talking to the police. With courtesy, he showed her the direction where that person was. Yutsushimi moved with difficulty to see who had been the person who saved her. A young man in a green suit, just like his hair, tall and sturdy. She was looking at who was considered in the world of heroes as the best of the new generation, Izuku Midoriya, known in the profession as Deku. The fire destroyed the inside of the building. Most of the residents were rescued, but sadly, we confirmed the deaths of 3 people, including a little girl, explained the fire captain. Do we know what caused the fire? Asked Izuku. Nothing confirmed, but it's believed to be a short circuit. Once we have all the information, we'll pass it on to the police. All right, I'll stay updated on the situation. After finishing the conversation, the captain left. Before Izuku left the area, he noticed someone watching him closely. He approached the person. How are you feeling? He asked cheerfully. Fine. Thank you for helping me. Don't mention it, you were in trouble, I just did my duty. Yes. But I couldn't finish mine properly, lamented the heroine. You mean the girl, right? I should've done everything I could to help her, Yutsushimi sighed. Sometimes we can't reach out to others. We're not perfect. I know. But I could have done more. Maybe. For now, it's best you rest. After all, you were close to death, the young hero said seriously. Yes. In the end, I was saved, Camie laughed, and Deku did too. Well. I must go now. Rest, Yutsushimi-san. She was surprised when he addressed her by her last name. Wait. Do you know me? Sort of. You're from Shiketsu Academy, we trained with your school a while ago, I'm from UA. And? What's your name? She asked, intrigued. Izuku Midoriya, but right now I'm Deku. Take care. After their conversation, he took a big leap and disappeared among the buildings. Camie was still surprised, she didn't remember the guy she had just talked to, but he did. Why don't I remember him? Probably because he wasn't handsome. Yes, that must be it, she thought, chuckling to herself. After resting for a while, she decided to leave the place. Another day of work had ended. 3 months had passed since the incident. And the memory of the girl still haunted Yutsushimi. She kept thinking she could have saved her if only she had held her and carried her. That image tormented her every moment. Maybe I should visit a psychologist, she often said to herself, but she always ended up rejecting the idea, shaking her head as if trying to shake the thought out of her ear. She walked elegantly to her workplace, a hero agency that was becoming more popular lately. It was considered one of the most effective ones in recent months. She felt comfortable belonging to that establishment, although sometimes some colleagues tried to overstep the line. After all, Camie was a beautiful woman who always showed charm. But for her, there was no guy she considered handsome in the place, including internally, although with those somewhat cunning attitudes, she practically disqualified the men in her work environment. Curiously, that day she had arrived earlier than usual at the agency. When she entered, she was surprised. You're that hero. Deku, aren't you? It was hard not to recognize that green hair. Hearing his professional name, the young man turned around. Yutsushimi-san, nice to see you again, the young man replied with a smile. Beside him was his boss, a hero who was currently ranked 12th. Miss Yutsushimi, it seems you woke up early today, besides already knowing young Midoriya, the new member of the agency. The new member of the agency? The young woman asked, bewildered. That's right. Hero Deku was recruited by one of your colleagues, and he agreed to work with us immediately. Well, it wasn't exactly like that. For a month, he was trying to convince me to join, but I still had a contract with another agency, so when my contract ended, I accepted the position, he confessed, feeling embarrassed. The important thing is that you're part of the agency now, welcome, he shook his hand jovially, while the young man smiled with difficulty. By the way, Miss Yutsushimi, from now on Hero Deku will be your partner for patrol. I ask that you keep him informed of all the surveillance areas assigned to you. I know he will do a good job. After that, he hurried away. Partner? Boss. Wait a moment, but her words went unheard. Camie was surprised, It had been a while since she had talked to Izuku, and although she wasn't surprised to see him again, because the profession demanded it, having him as a partner was shocking. She had been patrolling alone for a month, during which her old partner had moved to another city. This was something she didn't expect, let alone abruptly. "I hope we get along well, Yutsushimi-san," he said with a smile. She looked at him seriously. "Don't take it the wrong way. But I'm not comfortable with you being my partner. I don't know you well enough to be comfortable with you." Her words surprised Deku. I understand, I'll try to earn your favor," he bowed. "Whatever. Deku-san." Her indifferent expression said it all. After that, the young woman walked through the corridors, disappearing. He just looked at her crestfallen. Well, let's get to work, Izuku thought. For him, it was starting over, but he felt that with dedication, he could get along with Yutsushimi. After all, she was his colleague in his new job. Doing surveillance wasn't the most exciting task for a hero. But it was part of the job. Sometimes they had to deal with criminal acts or save people from disasters, and other times they just walked around. Camie didn't mind, she took the job seriously, well. Sort of, sometimes she strayed from her assigned path. But being assigned a new partner wasn't exactly what she had in mind for her typical surveillance routine, not so soon. Yutsushimi-san. Yutsushimi-san, he tried to get her attention. "Ah. What's up?" She asked, unenthusiastically. "I wanted to know how far our surveillance range is. Since we left in a hurry, I couldn't read it from the report. Just follow me." "Sure. Although I'd like to know." Izuku was somewhat annoyed by that response. "As I said. Just follow me." What's your name?" She responded somewhat irritably. "Midoriya, Izuku." "Fine. Minonia." "Midoriya, Yutsushimi-san." "Whatever." She finished and walked ahead. Izuku already felt uncomfortable with the situation. Practically, Camie ignored him. It seemed he would have to get used to this. Or at least get along with his surveillance partner. 3 hours had passed, and the day had been incident-free. Izuku kept walking behind her. Occasionally, they stopped to rest a bit, but the longer it went, the more uncomfortable he felt. After a while, they arrived at a park. She stopped, gazed at a bench, and sat down. She seemed comfortable. For a hot day, the shade of the nearby tree was the best companion. He thought it was his chance. He would take advantage of the break to understand what was going on. "What bothers you about me, Yutsushimi-san?" Deku asked seriously. She looked at him, then looked away. "What do you mean? Since I arrived this morning, you've been acting rudely towards me. I can't understand why you behave like this. You're new to the agency. Let's say you have to pay the price for it." She fanned herself with her cap. "I can understand rookie treatment. But I think you're exaggerating. If it bothers you so much, then quit," she said ironically. "I've been in the agency for not even a day, and you're telling me to quit?" He said somewhat puzzled. "Then don't complain so much. Just endure it. I still don't understand. What have I done to make you uncomfortable?" She remained silent for a moment, sighed, and responded. "Being assigned as my partner." "What?" He looked at her strangely. "Do you think I don't realize you were assigned with me because of your request?" She reproached. "You probably chose the agency because you found out I worked there." She avoided looking at the young man. "How? But I didn't." He tried to explain, but she interrupted. "Don't try to deny it. Many of the men in the agency have tried to ask me out during surveillance, that's why I preferred having a girl as a partner." She paused for a moment. "But since she left, I prefer to do it alone." Her sadness was evident when she said that. "I'm sure you've been checking me out." While walking behind me, she blushed, he more so. "What? No. Yutsushimi-san, don't think I'm like that. I just want us to get along so we can work better. That's all." "That's what they said. Apparently, you're just like them." Izuku was already annoyed with the situation, but with that comment, she had crossed his patience. "Well, I thought you were different. Talking to you after the fire made me." But he couldn't finish speaking. "Don't mention that." She snapped. She stood up in front of Izuku, angry. He was surprised by her action. "I don't want to hear any more about it." And she left, leaving her confused, distressed companion behind. After that difficult conversation, the situation had worsened. Now she didn't even look at the young hero. When they returned to the agency, nothing changed. Practically, she avoided him at all times. He didn't know how to fix it, if there was even a way. But something left him intrigued. Why doesn't she want to remember the fire? 6 months had passed since Izuku started working at the agency, and the discomfort with Camie persisted. As expected, she talked to her boss to have Midoriya removed as her surveillance partner, but he didn't back down despite her annoyance. After many attempts, she gave up. She had thought about quitting herself a few times, but she felt that would only give satisfaction to the young hero. She put the issue aside and focused solely on doing her job. Every walk, every break. No smooth conversations. She only said something quick when the situation demanded it, then silence followed. She walked behind Midoriya, thus preventing her partner from trying to glance at her behind. He had to endure this. After all, he was responsible with his work. But the uncomfortable silence ceased to exist when an explosion interrupted them. The explosion was heard to the north. Yutsushimi-san. Yes. Let's go. Both heroes hurried. After a while, they arrived at the scene of the incident. A bench had been affected, but apparently someone tried to stop it with their quirk. The debris showed that the fight had taken place inside. 2 people had been injured after the explosion. The situation was chaos. But after a brief observation, the villain had left clues to his escape: bloodstains. Midoriya, stay here, handle the situation until the police arrive, I'll follow the blood trail. The heroine left immediately. Wait. Alright, I'll check on the injured. He had to keep control of the situation. Camie ran as fast as she could. She had to perceive the stains on the floor cautiously. Every move had to be precise, so as not to waste too much time searching for the suspect. He can't go much further, he's lost a lot of blood, she thought. The trail led her to an alley. She followed the trail until she came across a door. Could this be his hideout? She suspected this at every moment. But she couldn't doubt so much. After all, her job was to catch the villain. She entered the building. Dirt, dust, broken mirrors, cobwebs. It wasn't a haunted house, but it wasn't far from looking like one. Although, there was something that didn't add up: the stains had disappeared. Camie was cautious. The place had several rooms with broken doors. Any of them could be the villain's hiding spot. It could be a trap. If he thinks he can outmaneuver me, then I'll make him imagine it, and after that, she used her own quirk, glamour, with which she could create illusions so believable that people fell under its influence. The soft scent of the heroine spread through different corners. But she didn't hear any reaction. Did he escape? As she thought about it, a shadow appeared behind her. Do you only create fog? The voice startled her, and she tried to react, but once again she was alone in that hallway. Where did he go? She looked around, but there was no presence, although laughter puzzled her. I admit I was careless when trying to rob the place, but at least I have some cash. He was amused. It was as if the voice came from several places. But, where are you? And she spread her illusory fog again. Don't waste your quirk, babe, it won't work on me. The laughter returned. Don't think you can escape. You'll be stopped. Then a knife approached her face from behind, touching her left cheek, while an arm encircled her neck. I doubt it, babe. Camie didn't know what had happened, she was scared. On the other hand, Izuku followed the blood trail. He hurried, wanting to help his partner. He waited for the police to arrive to handle the situation. Apparently, the marks lead to this alley, thought the young hero. But he noticed something: the trail led to an abandoned building. Why would the villain lead us to his hideout? He pondered, but he couldn't waste any more time. He had to find out if Camie had managed to catch the culprit responsible for the explosion. Upon entering, he realized the trail had disappeared. Near a mirror, he thought, as he observed the object. He walked through the halls cautiously, so many rooms with broken mirrors, and no trace of his injured partner. As he looked carefully into a room, he was surprised to see her. With cuts on her limbs, unconscious. Yutsushimi-san, said the young man cautiously. And the hero Deku has arrived. Laughter accompanied the comment. So it was all a trap. Izuku was angry. You're very smart. Deku, this whole moment is just for you, exclaimed the menacing voice. If you want to finish me, let the girl go. And miss the party? Not a chance. It'll be more fun when you both die together. Like a damn horror movie. The laughter grew more annoying. It seems your courage only serves you to laugh. No. Laughing serves me for this. Immediately Deku felt something approaching him. As he turned, he saw a knife lodged near the door. Blood flowed from his face. As if in a nightmare, several knives were thrown from different directions. The hero moved everywhere, trying to prevent any from embedding in his body, but always trying to ensure that his injured partner wasn't affected. Short jumps from different sides, but still, he was cut. There were too many to dodge in a small room. What's wrong? Don't you like your party? It chuckled. And again the knives came from all sides, hurting him. But Midoriya would realize something, a gleam, faint, almost imperceptible, coming from each broken mirror, as if jumping. He had to measure it, he had to be cautious. It was strange, but apparently those objects were the key to his ability. One movement after another, that gleam remained in constant bounce, and from it, a knife flew towards him at all times. Izuku moved to a corner of the room, stood still, he didn't want to take another step. Apparently, you want the party to end. Deku was silent. If that's what you want, then let's finish. And then I'll kill your little friend. His gaze was fixed on a single point. The hero, with his quirk activated, leapt forward, while a knife headed towards him. With a gentle movement Izuku managed to dodge, although his neck received a wound from the weapon's graze. The villain was right, everything had ended. Deku had him pinned by the neck, his back against the wall. Overwhelmed by the hard blow he gave when he collided. How? How did you do it? Said the villain with difficulty. Because of your gleam. Your quirk allows you to jump from one mirror to another, but you always leave that mark, that little sparkle when you throw your knives. I just had to take my time to catch you. His face showed a smile. Amazing. Now I understand why there's a high reward for your head, the criminal complained. The hero was surprised. Who put a price on it? The guy just laughed. Say it. He pulled back his body to slam it against the wall again. Everything in due time. Deku, and after that, the guy just chuckled with difficulty. Deku hit him in the face, causing him to fall to the ground. Izuku left the villain to inform the police of his location by phone. Then, he went to check on his partner, who apparently only had superficial cuts. He gently woke her up. She was surprised to see him in front of her. How do you feel, Yutsushimi-san? He said with a smile. Deku. What happened? And the villain? She noticed the wounds on the young man, so many cuts, some blood on the side of his neck and face. Did you defeat him? Don't worry. He's knocked out, he pointed to where he was. Okay. It's time to take him to the police. She tried to stand up, but the leg wounds hurt, preventing her from standing. She was about to fall, but Midoriya caught her. Wait. Don't strain yourself, I already informed the police by phone. They should be here soon. Camie blushed, seeing how her partner held her, left her speechless. But, after a while, she pulled away from him. I'm fine. She prepared to check on the villain. And was amazed, a knife was flying towards her. She didn't have time to dodge it. Suddenly, a green gleam appeared in front of her, looking at her. And then the groan of pain. Izuku had been hit by the weapon on the back of his left shoulder. Deku. The woman looked surprised. Damn. I failed. A smile appeared on the beaten man's face. Camie, annoyed, activated her quirk to stop him. The man was now living in his own dream. Yes. Hero Deku is dying. While laughing with satisfaction, another blow put him to sleep again. This time Izuku made sure to do it with more force. But he fell to his knees in pain. Yutsushimi approached him, worried about her partner's condition. Wait. I'll help you with that knife. But why did you do that? She scolded him, pressing the wound. He winced. Because my job is to protect others, even my partner, Yutsushimi-san. She was surprised by the response. Then, a smile appeared on her face. Thank you. Midoriya. Her words gave some calmness to the wounded hero. Wow. I think it's the first time you said my surname correctly, Yutsushimi-san. Izuku smiled at her. She was surprised again by her partner's attitude. A blush appeared on her face. Call me Camie, after all, we're partners, she returned the smile. Sure. Camie-san. It was hard for him to say it because of the pain. Just Camie. She tried to ease his pain while pressing his wound. Oh okay. That hurts. After that, they both laughed. When the police arrived, they took care of the arrest of the villain, while Yutsushimi, still in pain from her wounds, helped to transport her partner to the ambulance. The vehicle headed to the hospital, but the young hero was restless. What that guy had said had him distracted. His head had a price on it. He would have to be more careful from now on. Deku had to take a break for 2 weeks, as the doctor who closed his deep wound determined. Fortunately, there were no complications, and his other injuries weren't serious. It seemed his good physical condition prevented further harm. Yet, for him, being unable to fulfill his duties felt boring. As soon as he passed the post-recovery medical checkup, he returned to work immediately. It felt like a celebration when he walked in, even his boss greeted him warmly. However, Camie was notably absent. He didn't dwell on it much, assuming she had her own matters to attend to. Still, he decided to ask. "Is Yutsushimi-san sick?" he inquired. "She called in to take the day off," his employer replied casually. Deku shrugged it off and decided to start his surveillance day. He walked through the commercial area, then the school zone, staying alert at all times, especially after learning someone had put a bounty on his head. Better stay focused, he thought. Unbeknownst to him, his steps led him to the park, and as if in déjà vu, he saw her there, sitting, looking up at the sky, lost in thought. "What's wrong with me?" "Focus, Camie," she muttered to herself. "I thought you'd be here," he greeted her with a smile. She was surprised to see him. "Midoriya-kun. What are you doing here? When did you get?" She started, and he sat down beside her. "Yesterday. And this is the surveillance route we have," he explained. "Ah, I see," she chuckled slightly, "seems like resting in this park has become a habit. But it's a nice place. Shade, a pleasant breeze, and the sound of birds. I understand why you like this bench," he remarked. She smiled faintly. "Not just that. It just feels closer to me to rest from all the walking." "Well, I had to try to figure it out," they both laughed. Then silence reigned. It was a peaceful moment, where they could hear the wind brushing their faces, the birds fluttering. Eternal peace. "How are your wounds?" she asked, not looking at him. "The injuries weren't serious, the doctor gave me a clean bill of health." "I see. I'm glad, Midoriya-kun," she said. But then, his serious expression emerged. "Camie, can I ask you something?" He looked at her with uncertainty, but she nodded affirmatively. "What's bothering you?" "What do you mean?" "Something seems to be bothering you, and some time ago, in this very place, I felt that something was troubling you," he observed. She diverted her gaze from him, staring at the ground with seriousness. "If you don't want to answer, it's okay, I don't want to. I can't forget what happened to that girl." Her gaze showed distress, tears threatening to fall. Deku looked at her seriously. "All this time I haven't been able to get over it, I still feel like I could have done more. But, I just saw her fall. I saw her die." Izuku stared at her for a moment, then averted his eyes from her. He understood her situation. It's not easy to accept that you couldn't save someone. "We're not perfect, that's why we become stronger with each step." Camie looked at him, puzzled. "Those were the words someone very important to me once told me. And they keep me walking." She couldn't stop watching him. Midoriya turned to give her a smile and continued speaking. "There are times when our hands can't reach those who need help. Every decision we make, every word we say, every expression we show is a representation of our will to give it our all, to see happiness in those we reach, and yet we feel empty, because that's not what we want, it's what we can only do. But not reaching out only brings them misfortune. What strength does that give us?" the woman asked with disgust. "The strength to improve every day, Camie. It's hard to accept the death of someone you could have helped, but all we can do is try to make up for it, saving 2 more people each time that happens or protecting as many as you can. All of that to see their faces and give them hope. That's what strengthens me, keeps me going." "You say it as if you've lived it." "I did. And it's the most painful thing I've experienced, but for that person, I keep moving forward, showing a smile, giving hope." A joyful expression appeared on his face. "Keep fighting, Camie, in the end you'll see that it makes you stronger." Yutsushimi fell silent, feeling that the young man's words brought her comfort, but she knew accepting the tragic event wasn't simple, although she had to try. But a doubt arose in her. "That person you mentioned. Were they always by your side?" she asked curiously. "Were they very special to you?" "Yes," he replied straightforwardly. "Was it?" She wanted to know more. "There are things I still can't tell you." His troubled gaze said it all. "Well, thank you for your help, Midoriya. You can call me Izuku, after all, you've allowed me to call you by your name, Camie." "Thank you, Izuku-kun." Her smile shone brightly. He looked at her for a moment. "Is something wrong?" "No. I just got distracted." Suddenly, she stood up from the bench, while Midoriya looked at her in surprise at the sudden movement. Then, she turned to him with a smile. "Whenever you want to talk. Whenever you need my help. I'll listen, Izuku-kun," her gaze fixed on him, while he blushed at the woman's gesture. "Sure." She smiled. "In 2 hours, surveillance will end. How about I invite you to karaoke, as a way to thank you for cheering me up, Izuku-kun?" Deku was surprised. He wasn't ready for this. That's okay with me. Although I'm not a very good singer, he apologized. Don't worry. It'll be fun, she encouraged him. As you say. Once it's over. Where do I find you? He scratched the back of his head. She laughed. Here. Since it's become our chatting spot. Hearing that, they couldn't help but release a small laugh. The two heroes bid farewell and went their separate ways. A moment of relaxation wouldn't hurt for Izuku, after all, he wanted to clear his mind. Work was over, he could finally rest, although he had a meeting with his partner. Midoriya carried his hero costume and accessories on his back. After all, he didn't have time to return home, and he was punctual with his hours. Well, the hero world doesn't give you long breaks. I don't think I'll have problems because I brought my work stuff, he thought. He put on his cherished cap and headed to the park. Surprisingly to him, she was already sitting on the bench waiting for his arrival. Hello Camie. Seeing her, he realized she cared a lot about her appearance. Izuku-ke, she looked at him strangely. And that backpack? Oh this. It's my hero costume, he touched the back of his head. But. Why haven't you left it at the agency? You know there are lockers assigned for each member? Yes. But I prefer to take it with me. Her look said it all, he felt embarrassed. No. Don't think I'm mistrusting, it's just that I'm used to carrying it with me, he forced a laugh. I'm sorry, I didn't think it would bother you. Well. It looks strange, but I'm not saying it bothers me. She lied. Okay. And where are we going? As I told you before, to karaoke. So let's go. Both young people proceeded to leave the park. As they walked, they chatted about work. Since when she worked there, why she decided to join the agency, what was fun and boring about surveillance. Trivialities that only slightly lightened the time before reaching their destination. After a few minutes, they reached a street where there were several entertainment venues. Many young people were walking around, as well as couples. Wherever Izuku looked, tranquility reigned, laughter prevailed. Camie also blended in with the surroundings. It seems she feels calmer, thought the young hero. After a while, they arrived at a karaoke venue. Wow, it's a big building. Deku was surprised. It's the best in the area, she added. Have you been here before? Yes. I've been here with my former partner. Izuku just looked at her. We used to come here often after work, so take it as a future custom, she finished her answer, winking at the young man. He blushed at his friend's gesture. A custom? But his friend didn't hear his question because she immediately went in. He had no choice but to follow her. The interior was bright, at first sight, it captivated the eye, the atmosphere was jovial, entertaining. It's evident why Camie liked the place. Some people noticed who he was, that made him a little uncomfortable. Well, being a hero can also make you popular. Once Yutsushimi took care of renting the karaoke room, she called Midoriya, who as if fleeing from the devil, moved as fast as possible. It seems you're already very well known, Izuku-kun. Yes. Although sometimes it tires me, that's why I wear the cap outside, to avoid it. I suspected it was for that. But. You'll be able to rest a bit here. Yes. Although I warn you that I'm not a very good singer, he felt embarrassed. She laughed. Don't worry. My former partner wasn't either, I'm used to it. He could only laugh at how embarrassed his friend took her comment. But, it seems like you sing well. I say that because of the confidence you show. I do my best. It's relaxing. She smiles. They arrive at the assigned room. Upon entering, they see a table in the center with their microphone, in front of them the screen, and seats on the sides. They settled in, he left his heavy burden, and they began to browse the song list. After a while, Deku decided to take the microphone and give it a try. Well, he takes a deep breath. I'm ready. Then let's see how bad you are, the beautiful young woman laughs. But. What if we make it more entertaining? What do you mean? The loser will have to pay for the next karaoke session. What? That's not fair, I'm not used to this. Well. Tough luck, she finishes with a wink. Deku was nervous, and the worst part was that the music started immediately. He had to focus. He took it seriously, after all, he didn't want to look so bad, and of course, he didn't want to lose, although it was difficult for him anyway. But, seeing Camie's face not showing any annoyance, listening to him with a smile, and at one point following him with applause. She liked how he interpreted the song, she saw his effort. Izuku got excited, the music motivated him. It seemed as if he were the original performer of the song, missing only the spotlights. True to her jovial style, Camie sang along from her seat, keeping pace with Izuku's performance. Midoriya was delighted to see his friend's attitude. And so it continued until the end. Score, 85. Wow, you did really well, congratulations, Izuku-kun, she cheered the young man with applause. Yes. Even I can't believe it, but I'm really happy. It'll be hard to top that. But fun to try. She stepped onto the small stage. Standing in front, calm, suddenly, as if it were a small whisper, she activated her quirk, covering the room completely. Imagine the stage in front of you, Izuku-kun, Camie said. Immediately the young man looked as if he were in a concert, gazing at her in a suit that highlighted her beauty. Then, the music began. Midoriya began to listen to her sing. It was as if she were a professional at this, her movement on the stage, while her lips interpreted every lyric of the song. Impressive, thought the young man. And as if carried away by the melody, Deku continued to applaud his companion. Yes, it was as if she were an idol, shining, charming, captivating. It wasn't just mere confidence, she had a beautiful voice, and all he had to do was follow the rhythm with his hands. At the end, the score marked it appropriately, 93. The mist disappeared, and he emerged from the spell. Looks like I won this round, Izuku-kun, she said with a smile. It's true. Although you used your quirk to add more charm to your turn. But the scoreboard doesn't count that, only how I sing, she touched her face with her finger. Well. You're right about that. But in the next round, I'll try harder. But before that, how about a duet? I liked how you did it, so I'd like to try. Okay. Then choose the song. Once the song was chosen, both young people took to the mini stage, giving their best to interpret it. And like the last time, she used her quirk again. Joy was evident on their faces, both were enjoying themselves, and with each minute of the song, they complimented each other, as if they had interpreted it before. He got carried away by the moment, moving around the stage, she followed him with every step, as if they were both dancing for an imaginary audience applauding them in the world of make-believe. They were lost in that reality and made the most of every second of the song to enjoy it. They were not just surveillance partners, they were also singing partners. But everything has an end. Their time was up. You'll have to pay for the next session, Izuku-kun. I know. Camie. The young man was downcast, while the beautiful heroine smiled at him. And don't forget to wear your cap. You wouldn't want your fans to follow you. The young man felt embarrassed by the comment but complied. And so, their first singing night came to an end. The night before was fun at the karaoke. It was Izuku's first time singing, and he didn't think he did too badly, even though he lost the bet with Camie. Yutsushimi helped him relax a bit, although the bounty on his head still lingered. After a train ride, the rest of the way to their workplace was on foot. Midoriya had to be alert all the time. It was stressful, but it came with being a hero. Enemies. Once at the venue, he waited for his friend. It took a few minutes for her to arrive, and a cheerful greeting strengthened their bond. Now, it was time to go on patrol. I admit you surprised me yesterday, Izuku-kun, you sing well. Well. I appreciate the compliment. But you have talent for this, you could be a professional, like an idol, he praised his friend. I just do it for fun. Singing relaxes me, but I'd never think of doing it in front of many people. Yes, it's actually a good way to relieve stress. But don't forget that next time you pay for karaoke, I teased. And? Are you going to keep reminding me? As many times as necessary, she laughed flirtatiously. The young man joined her in the gesture. While the laughter of the beautiful young woman continued, Izuku felt something strange, as if someone was following them. Deku put aside his cheerful face, the fun time was over, or so he sensed. Camie noticed that something was wrong when she looked at his face. Izuku-kun, what's wrong? Camie, keep talking in a friendly way. It seems like someone is following us. She tries to turn, but her companion stops her immediately. No, there are too many civilians here, I want to prevent them from getting hurt. Yutsushimi was pressured, but she remained calm and obeyed Midoriya. She kept talking with him. After a few minutes of walking, the feeling of being followed didn't disappear, so the young man decided to enter an alley near their patrol route. And just like Deku, Camie was ready to act. Once inside the narrow place, both turned around, confirming their suspicion. Enough games. Why are you following us? Izuku demanded. I think you already know that, Hero Deku, the man laughed. The bounty, the young man responded angrily. Bounty? Camie looked surprised. Well, it seems like you haven't told her. Where are your manners, Deku? Find a safe place to hide. She was annoyed by her friend's comment. We are a team, I will help you face him. She gets ready to fight. You shouldn't risk yourself, he only wants to kill me. I am a hero graduated from the prestigious Shiketsu, I am ready for any challenge, she says energetically. Deku, do not underestimate me, she adds. Seeing his companion's attitude, the young man has no choice but to listen to her. Then, I thank you for your help, partner. At that moment, the villain in front of them was laughing, apparently under the influence of a drug or simply deranged. But when he finished, he became more serious than when he confronted the heroes. Did you think I would come without a plan? It wouldn't be fair to face both of you alone. Immediately, a woman appeared behind him, jumping to attack the heroes with a fist made of water. Both dodged it. A pleasure to meet you, I'm Mizu, and he's Kaji, my brother. It will be an honor to kill you, the woman said with a sinister courteous gesture. The professional heroes, surprised by the villain's attack, stood up to take their fighting positions. I will take on the water lady, Deku, she seemed annoyed. Be careful, we don't know what else she can do with her quirk. I will. Izuku forces the brothers to separate, thanks to the air pressure exerted by his attack. Facing the villain, Yutsushimi shows up. You are very rude to call me a lady, so I will make sure to punish you first, she laughs. At that moment, Mizu moves her right hand and creates a liquid arm again, but this time Camie was ready to receive the attack. The woman fails again. Once she finishes her offensive, the heroine moves to the side and strikes back. It's time for you to live in your own illusion. Glamour. The mist she exhales begins to spread towards Mizu. But before the villain could breathe, a liquid wall prevents her passage. Camie is surprised. I'm sorry, darling, but we already know what your power is, just like your companions. Now, it's time for punishment. She extends both arms, 2 water bands surround Yutsushimi, preventing any form of escape. Once her exit is blocked, the liquid hits each other, hitting the heroine immediately. A cry of pain is heard from the young woman, and quickly another blow is struck in front of her, pushing her. Camie. Deku reacts to his friend's cry, but when he tries to help her, 2 fire flares are launched in his direction. He had no choice but to dodge them. Hey, don't be rude, you fight with me. He throws the flames again, but Izuku reacts. Delaware Smash Air Force. He separates the flames to the sides, while the gust of wind hits Kaji. Camie. Before he could approach his friend, he feels the blow on his back, a burning sensation. The hero's groan was inevitable. How is this possible? Upon looking, he is surprised to see the flames swirling around the villain, as if they had a mind of their own. Surprised, my quirk allows me to control fire at will. The subject's laughter overshadows the place. Now, it's time for you to die, Hero Deku. Izuku was sore from the attack. He had seen fire quirks before, but never ones where the flames obeyed. It would be a tough fight, even more so if he had to worry about his friend. Although, in a quick glance, he verified that she was getting up. He had to trust Camie, as it would be difficult for him to worry about her well-being. Midoriya assumes a fighting stance. Meanwhile, the woman was already standing, and upon looking at Mizu, she realizes that the liquid surrounded the villain. You can control water. At your will. She spoke with difficulty. You are very perceptive, dear, and the ironic thing is that my brother controls fire. She smiles sinisterly. Your face looks horrible when you laugh. Darling, that's why I will make you suffer a little more. Mizu forms small bonds and attacks Camie. The heroine receives each blow. She stays on her feet and advances against the villain. The attack continues. But Yutsushimi maintains her position. She just wanted to get closer to the woman. You must be a masochist to endure so much punishment. For me, it's okay, after all, you'll die just like your little friend. The lashes kept hitting Camie, and at one point, it stopped. She was panting. It seems you've given up. Then it's time for you to die. He forms a fist of water, large enough to crush the heroine. But before finishing off her enemy, Yutsushimi reacts. I've got you. Glamour. The mist spreads around Mizu, causing her to breathe it in. Our mom and dad, they're here. What joy. The villain had fallen into her pleasant illusion. At that moment, the liquid spreads, wetting the heroine. It was better than being crushed, she thought. She quickly gets up and delivers a strong blow to Mizu, knocking her out on the ground. Tired from the fight, she notices something, a small tank. So, this is how he got the water, she told herself. It's a troublesome quirk after all. She ties the villain with an arrest tape provided by the agency and removes the tank to prevent any strange movements. She wanted to help her teammate, but her strength was leaving her. She had received too much damage in her fight. She staggered. Yet, she insisted. Izuku-kun. In a moment. I'll. She collapses. Izuku still had trouble dealing with Kaji, although he deflected the flames with each blow, his erratic movement prevented him from attacking his opponent. To compound the problem, he sees Yutsushimi unconscious. But he couldn't do anything for her, the flames surrounded him. Camie. Darn it. Where are you looking? The villain throws fire at the hero again, but in a swift reaction, Deku moves to avoid the impact. The pain makes it hard to move. The groan, the fatigue, Izuku was in trouble. I must focus. Endure this pain, he continued to dodge the attack, but doing so was difficult, especially when the embers touched him. He burned, but he had to keep fighting. At that moment, his enemy sees his sister tied up, defeated. Darn it. But only you remain, and judging by how you look, you won't last long, Hero Deku. A nefarious smile spreads across his face. All I know is that I must knock you out, Deku shouted. Try it then. The flames increased, started to surround the young man, there was no escape, and suddenly the fiery walls closed in. Damn it. When he tried to escape upwards, he was surprised to see that it wasn't possible, he was encapsulated. You will die now, Deku, and with that, the reward will be ours. Midoriya sent blasts of wind upwards through his power, but the flames closed rapidly, trying to jump would only cause him more damage. The ones around him drew closer, he knew he had to think of something different. So, he started hitting the floor with his power. With so many strikes generated, the shockwave allowed the fire around him to retreat, but he knew it wouldn't last long. He had to think fast, or the enemy's onslaught would kill him. He just needed an opening, one that Kaji himself would show to land a blow. He was getting tired. With a strained face, he sees the flames starting to disappear. Once the view was revealed, he sees a mist covering Kaji, who was confused. Without hesitation, he glances sideways. Camie had sent her quirk against the villain. Still on the ground and with the little strength she had left, she strained to help him. This is all I can do. A small smile lit up the face of the beautiful young woman. But what's this? Immediately, he notices the fatigued heroine. Her quirk. But before finishing his sentence, he was already trapped under the influence of the illusion. Father. Mother. They're alive. Deku, still panting, rises and using his ability manages to stand in front of the enemy, although he was lost in his illusion. He could see tears on his face, his life hadn't been easy, but it didn't matter if his fantasy gave him peace, he was a dangerous person. Before acting, he realizes that on his rival's wrist, there was an accessory similar to a lighter, so this is how he generated the fire, he doesn't create them, thought the young man. Deku. I can't keep him trapped in the illusion. Hurry, a weary Camie shouted. Hearing this, Izuku destroys the devices on both wrists. Immediately, Kaji escapes from the illusory trap. He realizes he was in front of Izuku and in a swift movement tries to expand the flames. But, as was evident, his quirk didn't work. But what's happening? The villain shouted. It's over. Just surrender. And forget about the reward? I doubt it. His irritated face showed his desperation. He was ready to fight. I need that money to protect my sister. And suddenly, he strikes Deku in the face. The young hero didn't flinch at the attack, his face no longer showed anger, but compassion couldn't be afforded, however justified his actions were, he had to be punished. I'm sorry, he said, and with that, he dealt a blow to the stomach, causing Kaji to fall. The fight was over. Putting his rival against a wall, he turns to check on his teammate, unconscious. She had wounds all over her body, evidence of a tough fight. Camie. Camie. She slowly opens her eyes. Izuku-kun. This time. I saved you. She gives him a warm smile. Yes. Thank you, partner. She laughs at his words and then falls back asleep. He hugs her tightly and then lifts her in his arms. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Then he cried. After a while, the police arrived, alerted by Midoriya's call. The young man stood there, carrying his teammate in his arms. The villains were captured by the authorities, he simply took his friend to the ambulance, he just wanted her to be safe. His own injuries didn't matter to him, he was stoic, thinking only about not having to experience something he would never forget, when he lost someone important on a mission. In a calm room, the wind gently passes through the window, accompanied by the fragile sound of a melody. She gazes at the white ceiling, unable to look away for a few seconds. Camie slowly wakes up, trying to understand where she was lying down, although she already had an idea. She could hear that faint sound, leading her to her left. Then, a sense of surprise washes over her as she sees who is sleeping beside her, Izuku. How long has he been here? She wondered, and although having her friend's presence in the hospital room seemed strange, she felt joy to have company in that moment. After all, aside from karaoke nights, she hadn't experienced this with her former work partner. She smiled at him until she started calling his name. The sweet voice of the woman brought the young man back from the realm of sleep. And what a happier awakening than seeing his awakened companion after that terrible fight he had to face. "Hey Camie. You're awake." A smile spreads across his face. "Yes. Although I still feel tired, I think I'll sleep a little more." She jokes. Although sleeping for 3 consecutive days is a lot. She looks at him in surprise. "How? 3 days? You took a lot of damage. It's a miracle you don't have serious injuries, according to the doctor. It seems I overdid it to defeat that villain. But what happened to them?" "Both were taken to Tartarus." She falls silent for a few seconds. The silence became uncomfortable. She tries to lift her body to sit on the bed. Midoriya helps her, and then she resumes the conversation. "Izuku-kun, how long have you been here?" The young man takes a breath. "Since you arrived at the hospital. I called the agency to report your condition, and I've practically been by your side these days, talking to the doctor about your condition and whether you would have any lingering effects from your injuries." She blushes upon hearing that he had been by her side all the time. "Why? It wasn't necessary to be here all that time." "Because you're my partner, it's normal to be worried." She stared at her hands, smiling, and replied. "Thank you, Izuku-kun." "You're welcome. Now I'll leave you for a moment. I'll inform the boss that you've woken up." He sounded worried. "The others will surely be happy too, and of course, I'll notify the doctor." He finishes and leaves the room. Her gaze rested on the young man as he left, then she looked at her hands again. And in her mind, she only thanked having a partner who cared for her, and to think I stereotyped him as a degenerate. She felt ashamed of it, but that idea was already behind her. Although something troubled her, why was a price put on his head? After a while, Deku returned to the room. "Camie, I informed the boss about your condition. Some colleagues will come to visit you and..." But she interrupts him with a question. "Why did that villain want to kill you, Izuku-kun?" Her expression reflected seriousness. Because of a silly reason only." He touched his head trying to change the subject. "I doubt they want to kill you for something like that, Izuku-kun." The young man looked at her with concern, thinking about how to avoid the conversation, but in the end, he decided to tell what he knew. Or what he had been told. He took a deep breath. And spoke. "I've had many enemies all this time, several want to see me buried." He averted his gaze from her. "And also, I found out there was a bounty on me. When that villain who used mirrors attacked us." He added. "I remember. That day you stood in front of that knife that injured you," she lamented. "Don't worry. I'm used to it." But she abruptly interrupts him. "You should also think about your well-being. Izuku-kun." Her raised voice silenced the young man. "Even if you have a powerful quirk, it doesn't mean you're immortal." Upon hearing her, he began to laugh. She was unsettled by her friend's gesture. "Izuku-kun? I'm sorry. It's just. You reminded me of someone." His forced smile, his diverted gaze, all indicated that he suffered from it. Yutsushimi wanted to understand that pain. "Izuku-kun. Who was that person?" The young man's laughter stopped. He closed his eyes, and fell silent for a few seconds. "Please. I don't want to talk about it anymore." At that moment a fog enveloped him. "Camie. Stop." He couldn't escape it. "I'm sorry, Izuku-kun. But I need to know what's troubling you." "Camie." He could no longer see his friend. Midoriya only saw white around him, as if he himself were standing in limbo. Suddenly, a shadow appears behind him. When he turns he sees a familiar back, a person who showed him friendship, sincerity, affection, and love. "Ochako." He extends his hand, trying to reach her, but it wasn't necessary. Upon hearing her name the tender girl turns around. "Deku-kun? Deku-kun." Filled with joy, she rushes to hug him. He feels the warm embrace, feels her love. Tears stream from the young man's eyes. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I should have protected you." He couldn't hold back his tears. He didn't want to stop hugging her. "It's not your fault. Don't keep suffering, please." She cries into the young man's chest. "Ochako. I miss you so much." His speech is broken, his sorrow overwhelms him. "Deku-kun. I will always be by your side. I love you." Her eyes were clouded with tears. He couldn't stop sobbing. Me too. I love you too. My beautiful Ochako. Sadness enveloped both young people. Until she faded away in his arms. Please. Enough of this. Enough, Deku cried out to the sky, while part of his quirk emanated around him. The fog dissipates, and the young man cried on the floor. Camie, sitting on her bed, teared up. She had also felt her companion's pain as her own, clutching her chest, suffering with him. Now she understood his pain. She was your girlfriend. What happened to her? Amid tears, she asked him. She died. Because of me. Kneeling on the floor, the young man cried. Why did you? Enough already. His gaze showed the anger of the individual. The impact was such that she couldn't say anything. Fear enveloped her. But the young man realized his attitude. I'm sorry. I have to go. I'm sorry. Without finishing, he gets up and leaves the room. Because of his mistake, she was left alone, regretting what she did to her friend, repenting for forcing him to remember a traumatic event, and holding her chest tightly, she whispers, I'm sorry. Izuku-kun. Then she just cried. Outside, the night already reigned, the lights struggled to gain ground against the darkness, and from the heights, the gleams were beautiful. In a building, a young man was sitting, looking at the majestic view, while the wind gently stirred his hair. For a moment, he set his eyes on an object held in his hand, something that belonged to his beloved. No matter how many times I apologize, guilt always overwhelms me. You would be disappointed in me for thinking like this, wouldn't you, Ochako? Izuku still cried, that illusion felt so real. It had shaken him. I won't let another person suffer if I can help it. I promise you, my love. In that moment, the young man stands up and his quirk swiftly surrounds him. It's time to seek answers. He leaps, and his figure disappears into the darkness. Tartarus, the prison specially created for those who use their power unlawfully, the home of different characters, who ultimately become parasites to society. But, there are cases where some may find redemption, or so they think. The sound of an alarm rings out. A criminal had a visitor. Strange as it may seem, chatting with someone from the outside seemed amusing to him, but upon seeing who was waiting for him behind the armored glass, his excitement vanished. Hero Deku. What's the pleasure of your visit? The hero noticed his reproachful expression. I want answers. But, it's not visiting hours, he joked. I have privileges. The villain eyed him carefully. Hey. You seem angry. But I don't see any reason to talk to you. How about getting benefits in here? Improving my food ration? No, thanks, it tastes awful. Have you found out anything about your sister? He asked with seriousness. You should already know that. How about being able to chat with your sister once a week? The villain paid attention. Speak. Tell me. Who is responsible for putting a price on my head, and I'll request that they grant her permission to visit you. There was a pause between them. Kaji breathed. I'm not sure. When the call went out in the underworld, we were only told the price, 20 million yen. The guy wore a mask, and his accomplice couldn't get a good look at him. Any marks or something you can distinguish? Deku felt pressured by the lack of information. But Kaji denied it. Izuku was losing hope, until the criminal spoke. Wait. His hand had a deformed finger. Like it had been broken before. Izuku looked at him astonished. From his left hand? He asked seriously. The villain remained silent for a while, trying to remember, then responded. Yes. I noticed it when he placed the photo with your image. Midoriya had his answer. One he didn't expect to hear again. That's all. I'll ask that your sister can visit you once a week. I hope you'll keep your word. Don't worry. You'll see her soon. Once finished, he left. Damn. I should have asked them to increase my ration. It'll be awful, but it's better than nothing, he joked. Before leaving Tartarus, he spoke with the warden, an old acquaintance of his, since he previously saved his son. For that gesture he promised to grant the inmate the opportunity to see his sister. His personal code mandated him to fulfill his promises. Now he had a lead on who ordered his assassination. He had to stop him. The rest period was over. After a week in the hospital, Camie had been discharged, and according to the medical report, she wouldn't have any lingering effects. It was either her own luck, or some entity protecting her. Whatever it was, she only had one thing on her mind, apologizing to her companion. Since that incident in the hospital, he hadn't come to see her anymore. She couldn't say she felt lonely. The rest of the heroes working at the agency brightened her day with balloons, cards, and pleasant conversations. But, even though she had those moments to laugh, deep down she felt guilty, and seeing that Izuku didn't visit her was evidence that he didn't want her around. At the agency, It felt like something was repeating, but with different people. Midoriya had asked for permission. So the boss informed the young heroine, although he found it strange that the young hero asked, as it was unusual not to see him on duty. After all, he was recognized as one of the best of UA. Yutsushimi felt this as an alert. Is he thinking of leaving the agency? Was the first thing the woman thought. She didn't want him to leave because of her, and if everything was already decided, she wanted to apologize. It was the least she could do. Fulfilling her role as a heroine, she had to patrol her designated area, without company. Alone again, she didn't like having to do it without someone. But, while she was deep in her thoughts, an idea came to her mind. Maybe he's there. Once she said that, she quickened her pace. Like a divine act, or the ironic play of fate, Izuku was sitting on that bench, the one they sat on to rest the first time they took surveillance together, the same one where the young man listened to the woman cautiously and helped her overcome guilt, or at least accept it to improve. Shrouded by the shade of the nearby tree, Midoriya, hidden by his faithful cap, had his eyes closed, an expressionless face, and crossed arms as if he were waiting for someone. In that environment, only the singing of birds broke the silence, and the gentle breeze calmed the atmosphere. That's how a person sat down beside him, with an attitude of regret, ashamed, guilty. Camie didn't dare to look at him. Yutsushimi-san. Naming her by her last name. She tensed up, she felt it in the atmosphere. Izuku-kun. But she was interrupted by the young man beside her. I'll tell you. Everything. She turned to look at him with surprise. She saw the pain on his face, his heart had opened up. She had to reciprocate the gesture. I'm listening. Izuku-kun. He just wanted someone to listen to his story, and she was willing to hear it.